what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
War, in one form or another, appeared with the first man. At the dawn of history, its mortality was not questioned. It was simply a fact, like drought or disease. The manner in which tribes, and then civilizations, sought power and settled their differences. Over time, as codes of law sought to control violence within groups, so did philosophers, clerics, and statesmen seek to regulate the destructive power of war.
The concept of a just war emerged, suggesting that war is justified only when it meets certain preconditions, if it is waged as a last resort or in self-defense, and if whenever possible, civilians are spared from violence.
For most of history, this concept of just war was rarely observed. The capacity of human beings to think up new ways to kill one another proved inexhaustible.
And while it is hard to conceive of a cause more just than the defeat of the Third Reich and its Axis powers, World War II was a conflict in which the total number of civilians who died exceeded the number of soldiers who perished.
In the wake of such destruction, and in the advent of nuclear age, it became clear to victor and vanquish alike that the world needed institutions to prevent another world war. And so America led the world in constructing an architecture to keep the peace, a United Nations, mechanisms to govern the waging of war, treaties to protect human rights, prevent genocide, and restrict our most dangerous weapons.
In many ways, these efforts succeeded. Yes, terrible wars have been fought and atrocities committed, but there has been no Third World War. The Cold War ended with jubilant crowds dismantling the wall. Commerce has stitched much of the world together. Billions have been lifted from poverty. The ideals of liberty, self-determination, equality, and the rule of law have haltingly advanced.
We are the heroes of the fortitude and foresight of generations past, and it is a legacy for which we Americans and Canadians are rightfully proud.
A decade into a new century, this old architecture is buckling under the weight of new threats. Terrorism has long been a tactic, but modern technology allows a few small men with outsized rage to murder innocents on a horrific scale.
Meeting the challenges towards a definitive solution to the problems of war will require the same vision, hard work, and persistence of those men and women who acted so boldly decades ago. And it will also require us to think in new ways about the notions of a just war and the imperatives of a just peace.
Yes, the instruments of war do have a role to play in preserving the peace, and yet this truth must coexist with another, that no matter how justified, war promises human tragedy. The soldier's courage and sacrifice is full of glory, expressing devotion to country, to cause, to comrades in arms. The war itself is never glorious, we must never trumpet it as such.
A just peace includes not only civil and political rights, it must encompass economic security and opportunity. For true peace is not just freedom from fear, but freedom from want. It is undoubtedly true that development rarely takes root without security. It is also true that security does not exist where human beings do not have enough access to food or clean water or medicine they need to survive.
It does not exist where children cannot aspire to a decent education or job that supports a family. The absence of hope can rot a society from within.
and yet we cannot have the will or the staying power to complete this work without something more. And that is the continued expansion of our moral imagination and the insistence that there's something irreducible that we all share.
As the world grows smaller, you might think it would be easier for humans to recognize how similar we really are, to understand that we all basically want the same things, that we all hope for the chance to live out our lives with some measure of happiness and fulfillment for ourselves and our families.
And yet, given the dizzying pace of globalization and the cultural leavening of modernity, it should come as no surprise that people fear the loss about what they cherish about their particular identities, their race, their tribe, and perhaps most powerfully, their religion. In some places, this fear has led to conflict. At times, we even feel like we are moving backwards.
Most dangerously, we see it in the way that religion is used to justify the murder of innocents. These extremists are not the first to kill in the name of God. The cruelties of the Crusades are amply recorded. But they remind us that no religious war can ever be a just war.
If you truly believe they are carrying out divine will, there's no need for restraint. It is for the pregnant mother, or the medic, or even a person with mental faith.
Such a warped view of religion is not just incompatible with the concept of peace, but the main rule that lies at the heart of every religion is that we do unto others as we would have them undo to us.
Adhering to this law of love has always been the core struggle of human nature. We are fallible. We make mistakes and fall victim to the temptations of pride, power, and sometimes evil. Even those of us with the best intentions will at times fail to right the wrongs before us.
But we do not think that human nature is perfect for us to still believe that the human condition can be affected. We do not have to live in an idealized world to still reach for those ideas that will make it a better place.
The nonviolence practiced by men like King and Gandhi may not have been practical or possible in every circumstance, but the love that they preached, their faith in human progress, must always be the North Star that guides us on our journey.
For if we lose that faith, if we dismiss it as being silly or naive, if we divorce it from the decisions that we make on issues of war and peace, then we lose what is best about humanity. We lose our sense of possibility, we lose our moral compass.
Like generations have before us, we must reject that future. As Dr. King said when he received his Nobel Prize so many years ago, I refuse to accept the idea that the isness of man's present nature makes him morally incapable of reaching up for the eternal oddness that forever confronts him.
So let us reach for the world that ought to be, that spark of the divine that still stirs within each of our souls. Somewhere today, in the here and now, the soldier sees it is outgunned, but stands firm to keep the peace.
Somewhere today, a young protester awaits the brutality of her government, but still has the courage to march on. Somewhere today, a young mother facing punishing poverty still takes the time to teach her child who believes a cruel world still has a place for his dreams.
Let us live by their example. We can acknowledge that oppression will always be with us and still strive for justice. We can admit the intractability of deprivation and still strive for dignity. We can understand that there will be war and still strive for peace. We can do that, for that is the story of human progress. That is the hope